Welcome back to our channel. The world stage is currently experiencing a multitude of significant events, shifting geopolitical landscapes and economic currents at an unprecedented pace. Today, we delve into a critical aspect of global interconnectedness, the intricate web of dependencies that underpin the strength and stability of the United States. What if the very foundation supporting the U.S. economy, the essential partnerships and resources it relies on, suddenly crumbled? Consider a scenario where key allies, nations integral to America's prosperity and security, were to vanish or face catastrophic collapse. How would the nation grapple with the abrupt loss of these lifelines? Which countries are so fundamentally intertwined with American interests that their absence could trigger a domino effect, potentially leading everything to unravel? Stick around until the end, as we'll be drawing some crucial conclusions from this analysis. The global order is complex, and the United States, despite its superpower status, is not an isolated entity. Its economic vitality, military strength, and overall prosperity are deeply linked to a network of international relationships. From vital trade routes and resource suppliers to strategic defense pacts and technological collaborations, these connections form an often unseen yet indispensable support system. Disruptions to these relationships, whether through political upheaval, economic downturns, or unforeseen crises in partner nations, can send shockwaves across the U.S., impacting everything from consumer prices and job markets to national security and global influence. Understanding these dependencies is paramount to grasping the potential vulnerabilities and the true extent of America's reliance on the global community. As we explore these critical relationships, we invite you to engage with us. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Your support is incredibly important for helping us continue to bring you in-depth analysis like this. Also, let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. We love hearing from our diverse global audience. Imagine this. What if, starting tomorrow, all commerce with a nation responsible for producing a vast array of goods found in nearly every American household abruptly ceased? Picture a sudden halt in the flow of electronics, clothing, furniture, and countless other items. It sounds almost inconceivable, doesn't it? Yet, this hypothetical scenario highlights the profound economic relationship between the United States and China. As the world's second-largest economy, China's manufacturing capabilities are immense. Official trade data consistently ranks China among the top trading partners of the U.S., although the exact figures fluctuate. For instance, while Mexico and Canada often top the list for total trade, China remains a dominant source of imported goods. The U.S. Census Bureau reported significant import values from China, leading to a substantial trade deficit for the United States in recent years. China is responsible for manufacturing a staggering percentage of global goods, estimated to be over 28%. This includes everything from smartphones and laptops to textiles and industrial components. The sheer volume of trade is immense. The U.S. imports hundreds of billions of dollars worth of goods from China annually. A sudden disruption, perhaps triggered by geopolitical tensions escalating or a severe internal crisis within China, would have immediate and catastrophic consequences for the American economy. The reliance goes beyond consumer goods. China holds a near monopoly on the processing of rare earth minerals, elements crucial for modern technology, including electric vehicles, wind turbines, smartphones, and advanced defense systems. While the U.S. has sources of these minerals, the refining capacity is heavily concentrated in China. Losing access to this supply chain would cripple key American industries striving for technological advancement and green energy transition. Furthermore, China is a major holder of U.S. debt, possessing a significant amount of U.S. Treasury securities. While the implications of China suddenly selling off this debt are complex and debated among economists, it undoubtedly represents a point of financial leverage. The interconnectedness means that American consumers would face sky-high prices almost overnight if trade ceased. Shelves in stores would empty rapidly, lacking the replenishment from Chinese factories. Industries heavily reliant on Chinese components, from automotive to electronics, would face devastating production halts, leading to widespread job losses and business closures. The ripple effects would cascade through the entire economy, potentially triggering a recession deeper and more complex than many experienced in recent history. The dependence is stark, revealing a vulnerability often overlooked in day-to-day economic activity. China isn't merely a manufacturing hub, it's a pivotal player whose stability is directly linked to American economic health and technological progress. Please remember to watch through to the end of the video, where we will summarize our findings and offer concluding thoughts on these critical interdependencies. Now, let's consider a neighbor closer to home, a nation sharing the longest undefended border in the world with the United States. What if this neighbor, a primary source of energy that fuels American homes and industries, suddenly found itself unable to deliver? It's a scenario that's difficult to envision given the close ties, but the potential impact is enormous. This describes the critical relationship the U.S. has with Canada. Should Canada face significant internal turmoil, economic collapse, or a drastic shift in its political landscape that disrupts exports, the consequences for the U.S. would be immediate and severe. Canada stands as the largest supplier of both oil and natural gas to the United States. According to data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration, Canada consistently provides the lion's share of American crude oil imports, often exceeding 60% of the total volume. This steady stream of energy is fundamental to the functioning of the U.S. economy. Without this reliable Canadian supply, American industries, heavily dependent on energy for production and transportation, would face crippling cost increases. Households across the nation would see their energy bills skyrocket, impacting disposable income and overall economic activity. The vulnerability of the U.S. energy sector to disruptions from its northern neighbor is significant, but the dependence extends far beyond oil and gas. Canada is also a key trading partner in numerous other sectors. The automotive industries of both countries are deeply integrated, with parts and vehicles crossing the border constantly as part of complex North American supply chains established under agreements like the USMCA, formerly NAFTA. A breakdown in this relationship would severely disrupt car manufacturing, affecting jobs and prices on both sides of the border. Agriculture is another critical area, with substantial trade in grains, livestock, and other food products. Furthermore, Canada is a significant source of essential minerals and metals used in various technological and industrial applications. The U.S. and Canada don't just share a border, they share deeply intertwined supply chains critical for economic stability. A collapse in Canada's economy or its ability to trade would trigger shockwaves, reaching every corner of the American economic landscape, from manufacturing floors to family budgets. The interdependence highlights how stability in one nation is crucial for the prosperity of the other, making Canada an indispensable partner for the United States. Let's shift our focus south, to another immediate neighbor, whose stability and economic health are profoundly linked to the United States. Imagine if the U.S. suddenly lost access to one of its most significant trading partners, a nation supplying a diverse range of goods from agricultural products that stock American grocery stores to essential components for the electronics and automotive sectors. The impact would be jarring, wouldn't it? This scenario underscores the vital relationship between the United States and Mexico. If Mexico were to face severe instability, economic collapse, or a breakdown in its relationship with the U.S., the repercussions would be felt deeply across America. Mexico is consistently ranked as one of the top 3 trading partners for the United States, alongside Canada and China. Data from the U.S. Census Bureau shows bilateral trade reaching staggering figures, with over $600 billion in goods exchanged annually in recent years. This volume surpasses the total trade the U.S. has with many other nations combined. Mexico plays a crucial role in integrated North American supply chains, particularly in the automotive and electronics industries. Factories in Mexico assemble vehicles and produce components that are essential for U.S. manufacturers, keeping production lines running and costs manageable. Disruptions to this cross-border flow would lead to significant production bottlenecks and increased costs for American companies and consumers. Furthermore, the U.S. relies heavily on Mexico for agricultural products. Think about the avocados, tomatoes, berries, and vegetables that fill American supermarkets year-round. A substantial portion originates from Mexico. A sudden halt in these imports would lead to immediate shortages and soaring food prices. But the relationship's importance transcends trade. Mexico is indispensable for maintaining affordable labor costs for certain manufacturing processes through nearshoring initiatives. Many American industries rely on the skilled yet less expensive labor available just across the border. The loss of this access would mean vanished jobs in interconnected U.S. sectors and significantly higher production costs. Moreover, the U.S. and Mexico cooperate extensively on national security matters, particularly concerning border security, migration management, and combating transnational criminal organizations like drug cartels. They share critical intelligence and coordinate efforts to address these shared challenges. A breakdown in this security relationship could lead to increased crime, uncontrolled migration flows, and significant disruptions in the fight against illicit activities, directly impacting American safety and security. If Mexico were to collapse or sever its ties, the U.S. wouldn't just face an economic crisis. It would confront a massive security challenge as well. This connection is not just about trade, it's about economic survival and regional stability. Let's journey across the Pacific to an island nation that punches far above its weight in technological prowess and strategic importance. Imagine a world where the intricate components powering your smartphone, laptop, and even your car suddenly became unavailable. What if the key elements essential to nearly every piece of modern technology vanished from the supply chain? It seems like a science fiction plot, but this highlights the critical dependence of the United States on Japan. Should Japan, the world's third-largest economy, though rankings can shift, it remains a global economic powerhouse, face a catastrophic event or decide to sever ties with the U.S., the technological and economic fallout would be immense. Japan has long been a titan in technology and innovation, renowned for producing cutting-edge electronics, high-quality automobiles, and sophisticated industrial components that are integral to U.S. industries. The trade relationship is substantial, with official figures showing hundreds of billions of dollars in goods exchanged annually. A significant portion of this trade involves high-value technological goods and critical components. Japan is a global leader in several key technological areas, including robotics, advanced materials, and optics. However, its most critical role might be in the semiconductor supply chain. While Taiwan leads in chip manufacturing, Japan is a dominant force in producing essential semiconductor manufacturing equipment and specialized materials needed to make the chips themselves. Companies like Tokyo Electron and Shin-Etsu Chemical are indispensable suppliers to global chip makers, including those vital to U.S. tech firms. A disruption in this supply would create severe bottlenecks, hindering the production of everything from consumer electronics to advanced military hardware. Furthermore, the automotive linkage is profound. Japanese automakers like Toyota, Honda, and Nissan have massive manufacturing presences within the United States, creating jobs and contributing significantly to the economy. However, they still rely on a complex global supply chain, including components sourced from Japan. Disruptions would impact both Japanese brands and the American suppliers who support their U.S. operations. Financially, Japan is one of the largest foreign holders of U.S. Treasury debt, representing a significant financial interconnection. Perhaps most importantly, Japan is a cornerstone of U.S. defense strategy in the vital Indo-Pacific region. Hosting tens of thousands of American troops and numerous U.S. military bases, Japan is indispensable for projecting American power and ensuring regional stability, particularly as a counterbalance to China's growing influence. The U.S.-Japan Mutual Security Treaty forms the bedrock of this alliance. If Japan were to fall into chaos or strategically distance itself from the U.S., America's ability to maintain security for critical sea lanes, deter regional threats, and uphold the existing balance of power would be severely compromised. Losing Japan would mean losing not just a major economic and technological partner, but a pivotal military ally, fundamentally altering America's position on the world stage. Now, let's turn our attention to the heart of Europe, to an economic powerhouse whose influence resonates globally. What if one of the most innovative and industrially advanced nations on the continent, a key partner in trade and security, suddenly ceased its deep engagement with the United States? Imagine the complex machinery in American factories falling silent, the flow of high-end vehicles halting, and crucial pharmaceutical supplies dwindling. You might be shocked to discover the depth of America's reliance on Germany. the driving force behind European manufacturing and technology. Germany consistently ranks as one of the world's largest economies, often cited as the fourth largest, and serves as Europe's industrial core. Its relationship with the U.S. is multifaceted, encompassing robust trade, significant investment, and critical security cooperation. Should Germany face a severe economic downturn or a political shift leading to a decoupling from the U.S., the impact would be catastrophic for numerous American sectors. The U.S. imports a vast amount of goods from Germany annually, with figures often exceeding $130 billion. This trade isn't just about volume, it's about high-value, technologically sophisticated products. Germany excels in producing industrial machinery, precision instruments, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, and luxury automobiles, goods often essential for American manufacturing, healthcare, and consumer markets. Major German automakers like BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen have significant operations in the U.S., but the supply chains are deeply integrated, with critical components and advanced technologies originating from Germany. Many cutting-edge automotive technologies, such as fuel-efficient engines, advanced driver assistance systems, and electric vehicle components, are developed or produced in Germany. A disruption would severely impact the American auto industry, both for German brands manufactured stateside and for American companies relying on German parts or innovations. Furthermore, Germany is a global leader in the chemical and pharmaceutical industries. Companies like Bayer and BASF are major players whose products are vital for American agriculture, healthcare, and various industrial processes. Losing access to these specialized chemicals or pharmaceuticals would create significant challenges. Beyond trade, Germany is a crucial pillar of transatlantic security. As a leading member of NATO and the European Union, Germany plays a central role in U.S. defense strategy in Europe. It hosts significant numbers of U.S. troops and key military installations, vital for regional stability and collective defense. The loss of Germany, as a stable and cooperative ally, would destabilize NATO, weaken the U.S. posture in Europe, and fundamentally alter the geopolitical balance on the continent. The interconnectedness is profound. A crisis in Germany would ripple through American supply chains, impact technological development, and undermine decades of security cooperation. This is a relationship far too critical to take for granted. Let's consider a nation whose influence extends far beyond its borders, primarily due to a single, globally indispensable resource. Imagine waking up tomorrow to find that the world's access to one of its largest sources of oil was suddenly cut off or drastically reduced. What would happen to the price at the gas pump? How would global transportation networks cope? How would the delicate balance of the global economy react? You might be surprised to learn just how pivotal Saudi Arabia is, not just for oil, but for the stability of the entire global financial system linked to it. Saudi Arabia is the world's largest oil exporter, wielding immense influence within the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and its broader coalition, OPEC+. Its decisions on oil production levels directly impact global energy prices, affecting consumers and industries worldwide, including those in the United States. While the U.S. has increased its domestic oil production significantly, it still imports millions of barrels daily, and Saudi Arabia remains a key, albeit fluctuating, supplier. More importantly, Saudi Arabia's role as a swing producer allows it to influence market stability by adjusting output, a factor the U.S. relies on for predictability. A sudden disruption in Saudi supply, whether due to internal conflict, political decision, or external attack, would send oil markets into freefall. Prices could skyrocket, triggering inflationary pressures across the U.S. economy, impacting everything from transportation costs to the price of everyday goods. The economic destabilization would be immediate and profound. However, the U.S.-Saudi relationship is intricately tied to something even more fundamental than just the flow of oil: the petrodollar system. Since the 1970s, a cornerstone of the global financial order has been the agreement for oil to be priced and traded in U.S. dollars. This arrangement creates constant global demand for dollars, bolstering its status as the world's primary reserve currency and providing the U.S. with significant economic advantages, often referred to as exorbitant privilege. Saudi Arabia's continued adherence to this system is crucial. If Saudi Arabia were to move away from pricing oil in dollars, perhaps due to shifting geopolitical alliances, it could trigger a cascade effect, potentially undermining the dollar's global dominance and severely impacting the U.S. financial system. Furthermore, Saudi Arabia is a key player in regional security in the volatile Middle East. The U.S. and Saudi Arabia share intelligence, cooperate on counterterrorism efforts, and the U.S. sells significant amounts of military hardware to the kingdom. This strategic military presence and cooperation aim to maintain stability in a region critical to global energy supplies and security. A breakdown in this relationship would leave American interests in the Middle East vulnerable and could escalate regional tensions, potentially leading to wider conflict. The kingdom is also diversifying its economy through initiatives like Vision 2030, often involving partnerships with U.S. tech and defense companies. Losing Saudi Arabia isn't just about losing an oil supplier. It's about risking global economic stability, challenging the U.S. dollar's supremacy, and potentially igniting conflict in a critical region. Let's focus on a relationship often described as special, a bond forged through shared history, language, culture, and centuries of close cooperation. Imagine if America's oldest and arguably most steadfast ally, a global financial center and a key military partner, were suddenly adrift or faced internal collapse. Think the U.S. is entirely self-reliant? Think again. The United Kingdom has been one of America's closest partners for generations, and the potential fallout from a weakened UK or a fractured alliance would be felt across economic, military, and political domains. The economic ties are incredibly deep. U.S.-UK trade is massive, worth over $260 billion annually, making the UK one of America's top trading partners, particularly in services and high-value goods. London stands as the world's second-largest financial hub after New York, and the financial systems of the two nations are deeply intertwined. Billions in investments flow between the countries daily. A significant economic downturn in the UK, or disruptions caused by events like Brexit, reverberate through Wall Street and the broader U.S. economy almost instantaneously. British companies, including giants like Rolls-Royce, Aerospace, BP, Energy, GlaxoSmithKline, Pharmaceuticals, and BAE Systems, Defense, play significant roles in U.S. industries through investment, supply chains, and direct operations. A collapse of this partnership would disrupt major sectors within the U.S. Militarily and strategically, the alliance is paramount. The UK is America's strongest defense partner. Both nations are leading members of NATO and form the core of the Five Eyes intelligence sharing alliance, along with Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. They cooperate closely on nuclear technology, conduct joint military operations worldwide, and share critical intelligence vital for national security. The UK hosts important U.S. military assets and provides crucial logistical support. If this alliance were to disappear or significantly weaken, America's global military reach, its intelligence capabilities, and the overall strength of the NATO alliance would be substantially diminished, particularly in Europe and the North Atlantic. Politically and diplomatically, the US and UK often present a united front on the world stage, collaborating within international organizations like the UN Security Council. Losing this close alignment would weaken America's diplomatic leverage and its ability to shape global events. The special relationship is far more than a historical footnote. It's a living, breathing partnership critical to American finance, industry, intelligence, military power, and global influence. Its erosion would leave the U.S. significantly more vulnerable and isolated on the world stage. These intricate connections demonstrate that even the mightiest nations rely on a network of stable and cooperative partners for their continued prosperity and security.